Jim Kimmel, better known to his friends and family as Kimmy. Hey, it's me, Kimmy! Longtime viewers of this channel, you guys know exactly how I feel about Jim Kimmel. This dude is without a doubt the worst comedian in late night television. And I struggle to call him a comedian because Jim Kimmel, he possesses this unique ability to never be comedic. There are times when I am laughing at Jim Kimmel. For example, when I see him suffering through the brutal side effects of stage 4 OMB, Orange Man Bad, I experience mild laughter watching Jim Kimmel suffer. When he hosts the Academy Awards and he is telling jokes that are so bad his pretend friends in Hollywood, they won't even give him the courtesy of a polite chuckle. I'm not going to lie to you. I smile when that happens. But with all the years that I have been covering Jim Kimmel here on the channel, I cannot think of one instance where Jim Kimmel has made me laugh. I can't think of one instance where there has been a classic, memorable moment from his show. Right now, late night television is as bad as it's ever been. The Tonight Show with Jim Fallon, unmitigated disaster. Johnny Carlson, he gave Jay Leno the golden goose. For decades, Jay Leno maintained the legacy of The Tonight Show. Hands it off to Conan O'Brien, then steals it back 6, 7, maybe 8 months later. After a few more years, he hands it off to Jim Fallon, and within the span of 10 years, Jim Fallon has damn near destroyed it. The Tonight Show is barely clinging to life support. David Letterman handed the legacy of his show to Captain Doofus Steph Colbert, another elitist who is allergic to comedy. There's been a string of other huge embarrassing failures over the last decade or so in late night television. Chelsea the Coat Handler, Sam B., Travis Noah, Jorge Lopez, Sean Squires. Well, KC, who in the hell's Sean Squires? He's that nerd that comes on after Jim Fallon on NBC. During the day, he's working on Fifth Avenue in Manhattan, modeling tuck-friendly bathing suits with Chad Thundercock. At nighttime, he plays the role of one of the worst comedians in the history of late-night television. But even as bad as Sean Squires is, as big of a failure as Travis Noah was, there is no one, and KC means no one, in the genre of late night television that is worse than Jim Kimmel. He is a comedian that lacks the ability to be funny. He has this unhealthy obsession with Donald Trump. His obsession with the Trumper, it rivals the obsession that Skip Bayless has with LeBron James, the self-proclaimed king. Jim Kimmel reeks of inauthenticity, but earlier this week, we might have seen a small glimpse of the real Jim Kimmel. As strange as this may sound, I actually found myself partially agreeing with Jim Kimmel. To make things even stranger, whether he realized it or not, Jim Kimmel, he was agreeing with Donald Trump, which, as you guys know, agreeing with Donald Trump, that is a clear violation of the woke commandments. If convicted, the punishment is severe. You are required to sit through 69 hours of sensitivity training with Bob Dylan Mulvaney. In extreme cases, you can be sentenced to community service in the WNBA dump, where you are required to apply Just for Men to the beards of dump divers to make sure the facial hair is growing thick and strong for those exciting facial hair counting contests in overtime. The punishment, it can be even worse when a deacon at Woke United Methodist like Jim Kimmel is convicted of the crime of agreeing with the Trumper. Once his fellow deacons see this video, they will have no choice but to convict Jim Kimmel. Let me show you the evidence. Back in 2019, Donald Trump sat down for an interview with Tucker Carlson. Now, this was back when Tucker Carlson was still working at Fox News, and it was a year before the country was introduced to Aunt Fauci and his pet hamster, the Covey. Tucker and Trumper, they were talking about the nasty, filthy, disgusting cities that Democrats were ruining across the country. Now, back in 2019, we were still calling them Democrats. This was before the term woke was introduced, or the personal favorite of a lot of you guys here on the channel, shitfuck. They were talking about the filthy cities run by Democrats. Cities like New Orleans, where you can be walking down beautiful Magazine Street looking through store windows. All of a sudden, the wind blows off the Mississippi River and you think that you're on the set of The View. It's that same boodle breeze you felt when the whoopee cushion hiked her leg, unleashing her toxic flatulence. Or cities like San Francisco, the city of rainbows. Last night, I was actually texting with my friend who lives in San Francisco. He used to live in Noe Valley, which is now known as Dumpster Valley. He had to move because he was tired of walking out of his $4,000 a month apartment and being approached by hard-working squatters asking to borrow his socks. For decades, New York City, it was one of the cleanest, safest major cities in America, even the world. They elect the insufferable Bill de Blasio, and within a couple of years, Bill de Blasio, he had modeled New York City in the shape of his personal life, meaning he turned it into shit. Chicago, Seattle, Los Angeles, St. Louis. Show me a woke city, I'll show you a dump. 5 years ago, Tucker and the Trumper, they were talking about these disgusting cities. They were disgusting back then. Just think about how bad they are now 5 years later. When they filmed this interview, Donald and Tucker, they were in Tokyo, Japan, one of the most densely populated cities in the world. 14 million people in the city limits, over 40 million in the metro area. Yet somehow, you can walk down the streets of Tokyo and you won't find used condoms and used needles. You won't find squatters over the sewer drains releasing the polished turd. It reminds me of that old saying, the polished turd never falls far from the ass. Both Trump and Tucker, they were wondering, how in the hell can a city like Tokyo, which is 4 times or more the size of New York City, how can Tokyo be so clean, while the streets of New York smell like a musty ass that hasn't been bathed in months? Watch for yourself.
The cities are clean. There's no graffiti. No one going to the bathroom on the street. You don't see junkies.
It's very nice, isn't it?
Very different from our cities.
Yep. Well, no, some of our cities.
Some of our cities. But New York City, San Francisco, Los Angeles, they've got a major problem with...
It's very sad.
With filth.
Very sad.
Why is that?
It's a phenomenon that started 2 years ago. It's disgraceful, but we're looking at it very seriously because you can't do that. You can't have what's happening where police officers are getting sick just by walking the beat. I mean, they're getting actually very sick. Where people are getting sick, where the people living there are living in hell too.
Now, when Donald Trump and Tucker Carlson questioned filthy American cities, the woke media, they express fake outrage. This is un-American. This is shameless. How dare these white Christian nationalists call our cities dirty? Deacons at Woke United Methodist, they consider it an act of treason to question the policies that led to disgusting streets and high crime rates. Now, I wonder what would happen if this same narrative was being promoted by one of their own. I wonder what the response would be if this truth was spoken by someone who is typically allergic to the truth. Tuesday night, Jim Kimmel hosting his Dump Jimmy Kimmel Live. The absolute worst title for a TV show. There's nothing live about it. The show is pre-recorded in front of an audience that exhibits no signs of life. I mean, I have seen more activity in a morgue. Recently, Jim Kimmel and his family, they took a vacation to Japan. Now, when he says family, I assume that he is talking about his wife and his partner in the butt bongo band, Howie Stern. But unfortunately, his bestie Howie couldn't make this trip. Howie hasn't left his dungeon since March of 2020. I know it's been 4 years, but Howie Stern, he is still deathly afraid of catching the COVID. Even in one of the cleanest countries in the world like Japan, even with Howie being boosted thousands of times, he still believes that he is at risk of catching the Fauci fungus. But Jim Kimmel, he's not. He spent an entire week in Japan with his family. He was amazed at how clean it was. Being raised in New York City in the 70s and 80s and spending the last 2 or 3 decades living in Los Angeles, Jim Kimmel, he is accustomed to cities smelling like an ass fire. When he arrived in Tokyo, he couldn't believe it. People were not wearing masks to protect themselves from the aroma of the whoopee cushion. Gloves were not required to open doors or to embrace in a passionate woke hug. All this cleanliness, it was shocking to Jim Kimmel. He attempted to share his vacation story in a comedic way. Naturally, though, there was nothing funny about it. Watch for yourself.
I realize that this place, this USA we're always chanting about, is a filthy and disgusting country. We were in Japan for 7 days. Not only did I not encounter a single dirty bathroom, the bathrooms in Tokyo and Kyoto are cleaner than our operating rooms here. Everywhere you go, the bathrooms are clean. They don't smell bad. They have those toilets that wash you from the inside out. And not just in a hotel, restaurants, bars, truck stops. I went to 2 truck stops. I swear to God, the bathrooms cleaner than Jennifer Garner's teeth. The cleanest. Beautiful. And it's not just the bathroom. There's no litter. They clean up after themselves. They bring their garbage to their houses. And
Oh, Jim! Believe it or not, even though there was absolutely nothing funny about that segment, I actually partially agree with Jim Kimmel. But here's my problem. He tried to use this segment as a way to trash Americans. He didn't have the balls to give you the full truth. Not one time did he call out governors and mayors of woke cities and states. Jim Kimmel went with the false narrative that the American people are dirty, the American people are filthy. I live in the suburbs of a mid-major city. Down here on the coast, there's probably, I don't know, 1.5 million people in the tri-state area. You know how often I see needles on the street? You know how often I see used condoms on the street? Never. You know how often I see homeless people downtown? Never. Every once in a while, a group of bums will try to invade the entertainment district downtown. You know what happens when they do? The cops come in and remove them. You know how often I see them in the suburbs? Never. The violent crime rate in my suburban area? 0. There are major cities that are clean. I have been to Indianapolis several times. Every time I have been to Indianapolis, clean. Nashville, pretty clean. Last time I was in Charlotte, it was clean. Now, been a while since I've been to Charlotte. Don't know what Charlotte's like now, but the times I have been there before, it's been clean. I know what San Francisco was like a few months ago. Remember when Xi Jinping was visiting San Francisco? Gabby Newsom and Granny Pelosi, they had the streets of San Francisco cleaned up in less than 48 hours. Now, how come Jim Kimmel didn't mention that during his monologue? The answer is obvious. Jim was worried that Gabby and Granny would revoke his invitation to the Butt Bongo Festival. Now, I would be willing to bet, if you look at the dirtiest cities in America, if you looked at the cities in America with the highest crime rates, I bet you every single one of those cities would have one thing in common. I guarantee you, every one of those cities is being run by woke Democrats. Now, I'm not talking about old school Democrats, if those even exist anymore. I'm talking about woke Democrats who are more concerned with filling their diversity quota than filling the garbage cans with trash. But give me your thoughts on this. Jim Kimmel trashes America literally. He compares cities in America to cities in Japan and complains about the filth here at home. Again, Jim Kimmel isn't wrong, but I thought it was strange. He refused to call out the woke politicians responsible for the filth. I wonder why. You tell me. Sound off in the comments below. Like, subscribe, share the video. I appreciate your support. Best way to contact me is by email at btlkc84@gmail.com, KC_BTL84 on Twitter. I'll see you guys tomorrow.